Morning, good afternoon, good evening, one and all. Thanks for joining us in the BRM Brown episode number 41. I'm your host, Suresh GP. We focus on bringing real world practitioners and leaders in the world of business relationship management, sharing their best practices and lessons learned. So today, I have the honor of having Hugo Massaneiro, a seasoned leader in supply chain and manufacturing technology, currently serving as the Director of Supply Chain and Manufacturing Solutions at Electrolux Group. With a career spanning over 20 years across Latin America and North America, Hugo has been at the forefront of digital transformation, smart factories, and Industry 4.0 initiatives. So, with no further ado, I'm going to ask Hugo to introduce himself in the journey of what has taken him to be a practicing BRM. They might not have the title called Business Relationship Manager, but that's the work that he's doing across. So, welcome, Hugo. Thanks for taking time to be with us today to sharing your valuable insights.
Thanks, Suresh, and really appreciate the invitation to be here. Glad to be with you into your podcast that we are already into the episode 41, right? If I'm not wrong over here. So really nice to be the one selected for this and share a little bit of the experience. So it's interesting you mentioned that about the my I have no BRM into the role because I have the sense that since my early stages when I started at a developer in a small software house, I used to have kind of all kinds of experiences there from the developer in itself, but functional. But I was very close with the customers since the beginning of my career. So it's not something that I was kind of into my mind at that point in time, but it built up on that. So I I worked with such different business areas through my career. I worked with consumer care, e-commerce, supply chain, manufacturing, purchasing, and so on, and always into a kind of a setup that I could connect with business very often, right? So my background is on IT. I joke that I born and grow in IT, and in some point in time, I did a specialization in supply chain to bring a little bit more the business perspective to my background. So this is a little bit of what I did. What does that help me out is with all this different experience, I can take the takeaways from these different work areas and build up on the business relationship, doing that with a different perspective, with a perspective of uh, who understands the other side, but not getting away of the technical view that I have, right? So currently, the last I would say 8 years, I'm in more kind of BRM positions at Electrolux. That again doesn't have this name, but it's one of the main points with that. A little bit mixed with a delivery manager.
Awesome. Now, I think one of the things that makes it unique, Hugo, is that you have a strong delivery management experience and you bring that customer centricity as a focus to do that. But for viewers, give us a insight about the supply chain part of it. That's a kind of complex world around it. So help us understand what does supply chain mean for someone who doesn't know about this whole domain. And then tell us how business relationship management fits into that particular role. And then what's the expectation and deliverable as a BRM that you are focusing towards achieving the goal. So give us a little bit of a mellowed down version of what the supply chain construct looks like. And then where does BRM get involved and how does that all play out?
Yeah, and you're right. Supply chains kind of have a lot of different definitions. If you go to different ways, you get different domains. Uh, what I'm usually getting out there, or what I'm currently working with, it's kind of the full chain. And by full chain, I mean from the components that you use for the appliances for the company that I work for right now, and all the suppliers that we have in the chain, no matter where. So we are talking worldwide spread, how those components come into our factories, how the OEM products, or the products that we bought directly from the suppliers, come into the US, into North America, how we do all the planning around that. So the functions that plan from the finished good that will be into the home of the consumers, until this change that will what will be the components needed to produce this kind of stuff. All the carriers that will be into this journey. Everything needs to be all together and all set, and this is all part of the supply chain. Not only the one that is more visible to us as consumers, like receiving the product in our houses, but all this kind of stuff that stay behind the scenes, and we don't see into a day-to-day basis, but it needs to be all orchestrated, and needs to be in synergy, and making sure that we have the right levels of inventory into all these kind of helms that I mentioned over here. So it's a lot of things, a lot of products, different ANC, SKUs, and also suppliers that are involved into all this orchestration. Well, bringing a little bit to the BRM, how does that reflects into that? Uh, my personal point of view, it's kind of the main point of that. It's foster the cross-functional collaboration that needs to be to make all this kind of thing of the magic happen over here, right? Besides that, we are talking with more in supply chain more about the physical aspects of the things. There's always the side of the money that we need to be controlling out there, supplying the information to sales and so on. So uh, on my role and my team, we must be knowledgeable about all this stuff, and be seen as trusted advisors for the stakeholders that we have, which is one of the main points that it's under our function, which is which is manage the expectations of the stakeholders to ensure that we have engagement for their side. So this is kind of compound. Other elements that I see very important over here is that we have a strong communication management,
Right.
making sure that we pull that together to ensure that those stakeholders are understanding what we are talking, and we are talking into their language and not into the technical language, and we are close together to understand what brings more value realization for them. So all those are the points that I would highlight in terms of the function and the importance that BRM has in terms of building these bridges with supply chain.
No, that's great because you talked about orchestration, which is cutting across the value chain. You also talked about something which is visible and invisible. There's a lot more moving parts to the whole equation, which I call as the whole value stream. But it's also about the way that it is communication management, the way you communicate with different stakeholders from different parts of the way, because timing is of critical essence. From the beginning till the end, how quickly can it move seamlessly without any kind of bottlenecks is going to be important to see that element. Now, over the years, as you have done this whole job, it's easy to get to tactical things, go back into the weeds, into the trenches. So, how have you stepped away from being tactical to growing up to be more strategic? because there's so much moving parts. Everybody needs your attention, so you can actually go into the deep trenches. But how do you take a step back consciously and say, I want to focus on being more strategic and do that? So how did you kind of do that, and what's been your experience moving from tactical to strategic?
I would say that it's a journey.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was definitely something that until I get to the point that I realize a little bit more how we do this kind of stuff. I was way more into being technical and being involved into the details and more involved into day-to-day request taker, if so. But in the end, you see that this is not where you can bring value. You need to be with teams together with you that are able to help into that sense, and step by step, understanding that the most important things is understand the key business priorities and making sure that you are prepared to support business to create this kind of foundations, technically speaking, even more when you talk about supply chain, because all these kind of points that I mentioned before about supply chain needs to be digitalized over here. So it's something important that you bring that visibility. And when business bring this perspective of what they want to achieve, what are the main outcomes that they want to get, that you have something prepared in your side to support this evolution. And one of the things that for me it's key into that, it's that you start to go into a little bit different area, which is portfolio management, where you see how you are managing the health of the products of applications that you have through hold roadmaps on where you use that, where to invest the capital. Have a I never be into a position of have unconstrained capital, so it's
Right.
always something that you need to tie up on the business priorities and what you need to do to enable grow and enable the next steps. Also in the same helm with the resource availability. And more I would say recently we are kind of bringing something also into that perspective, which is enterprise change management, which is how we have adoption, taking that into consideration, which is something that I would say it took me a while in terms of understanding the personal approach that I need to do and perceive to that point and so on. But it was the kind of steps that we need to go to. So uh,
And I
yeah,
think it's a great point that you say about portfolio management, because when you say portfolio management, you look at the big picture, you look at the organization priorities, it kind of get through it, but also an element of enterprise change management, because change is tough. I mean, there's so much moving parts, and how do you help people to elevate themselves to change from the current ways of working to new ways of working, new operating models. And you rightly said it's a marathon, right? I mean, you cannot just do just like that from tactical to strategic, like a switch of a button. It takes time and effort, so you kind of orchestrate the whole piece to do that. So, in your case, as being driven as a business relationship manager, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing with the role of BRM? You know, sometimes things don't go well in the way that you think about as a BRM. So, what are some of those key challenges that you're seeing, particularly in the supply chain space, as you wear the head of a BRM and say, we want to kind of orchestrate the whole piece and deliver value to the stakeholders and sponsors and business units, but what's been some of the challenges, and give me some insights on that.
yeah, I would say that time management it's one of the things that you need to be very cognizant about, and it's also related to the being more tactical to strategical, because when you are into the tactical side of that, you mostly use your time into things that it's not building up over your BRM in itself. You are
Right.
so involved into the some points that it's related to the execution that you don't bring the value of the full picture that you need to see into that position in more in my perspective. So at that point, I see that we were involved lately in most of the initiatives because of our approach, the approach that we used to be that it's static. And so the more we go into the more strategic view, we step into early involvements that helped us a lot in terms of reduce the challenges or reduce the friction that we have out there. And most common, what I'm seeing is kind of technology is getting more and more as a commodity. So you see people very skilled and kind of, well, I will do my personal agent over here and we'll see what happens with that and so on. So it's you need to be very well uh, equipped to go with those guys and bring your value and bring the understanding for that of what does that mean into the overall picture for a corporation. So it's not just about bringing new tools, but how does that fit into the whole architecture, into the whole objectives that the company has. And another point that it's always a challenge, and you need to learn how to cope with that. It's the global versus local conversations, as we always have this kind of view of well, let's get the best of the global, but in some point in time, this brings a lot of challenges in the local, which is vice versa. It's true also. So it's a kind of a role and a skill that you need to have, and you need to learn how to manage that, because this is definitely a challenge that you face when you are into companies of that size that has BRMs assigned. It's how to manage that and understand into the early stages how you get the most into this relationship.
Awesome. You did talk about the whole aspect of it takes time and effort to slowly grasp towards that, but making that awareness that it takes time is also important. Now, one of the things which is very unique to you, Hugo, is that you've got strong delivery management experience beyond just being a BRM. And how has it helped you to achieve success? Because a lot of times I've interviewed a lot of BRMs, they are not the actual delivery people, they actually are helping by part of it. But the proof is in the pudding, right? The execution part that you talked about, you're seeing that you know exactly what works, what doesn't work, so that you are taking that whole journey towards making that outcome. So, what's been your experience? How has delivery management helped you in the BRM journey?
Uh, the one of the main points that I see is we have the ability to speak business language, which cut the noise between the talking with business and make that happening. So we are very my team and myself, we are very kind of hands-on and understanding what is there and connected with the places that the problem it's arising. So it's not something that we'll get from someone saying, well, I need something that I need someone to come over here to see to then translate to someone else and so on. And then in the end, when you see it's totally different perspective from what the user in the end is trying to say. So we cut the noise into that sense and bring that together. So having the ability to have a disalignment into the early stages and the connection with people way closer than going through different teams,
Right.
it's something that really gives us uh, way more knowledge inside of the teams and also the ability to go quicker and even more agile into some deliveries that we have. So this also together, if you think like we also have the ability to bring vendors that are more experts into the helm, because we understand what is in the business, we understand what is needed, and also technically we have the ability to see who is in the line that we want. So we easily pull that together in a way that we can achieve our outcomes.
Awesome. Awesome. So one of the things that we always believe is the education part of it, right? The business relationship management, and we have certifications here like business relationship management professional, certified business relationship manager. This comes from the BRM Institute. But in your case, what's the kind of the BRM education role or a catalyst that you've done for emerging topics? You talked about technology is changing, the ways of workings are changing, move from agile to faster delivery capability or improving productivity. So much is happening around. So how do you instill constant learning for the BRMs in the education space so that they are up to the mark in terms of latest trends, avenues to explore? So how do you do a constant way of educating the business relationship management role?
Yeah, you need to be cognizant of getting great content that you have your sources for that, and making sure that you build up on the stories or even the real cases that you are able to tell people, or to understand how to translate that into their language. For instance, if you get like cybersecurity is always something that it's not in the day to day of the people that it's using there, but we need to bring that as a foundation for whatever is the initiative that we are taking. What are the pitfalls that we need to avoid, to don't put data in jeopardy, or don't put the company into a point that we could create uh, any kind of issues with that. So it's something that we always try to be a source for the people that we are talking with, in terms of reliable content to that, and making sure that we spread that as a kind of catalyst for the education throughout the company and through the ones that we are relating to. So this really help us in terms of cutting the noise of what is hype and what is really the moment to approach the realistic applications for each of the things that are on the news, uh, and that we have a real application for that, that we can bring value for business. So this is a little bit of all the things that we are doing day to day to get educated and being able to educate the people outside.
Right. And I think that is absolutely right. It could be cybersecurity today, it could be AI tomorrow, it could be a lot of those new trends that people have to be up to date. In fact, we had a set of BRMs go through customer experience management. So we said we don't longer focus on service level agreements. We talk about XLAs. How do you step up your game towards sentiment analysis and look at every touch point of the customer journey towards measuring outcomes? So finally, one question would be, what would be your call of action for BRMs in the supply chain? Should they do if they are someone aspiring to be as a business relationship manager in supply chain? What are some of the call for action that you would suggest for people to make the best in the journey of BRM within supply chain?
Well, I would say the first and foremost for me, the BRM, it's about building alliances. So you need to be together with the people that you are relating, and find a way to build the alliances, and cut the noise, and try to reduce as much as possible the friction. And this come with the early strategic involvement that you have, building up the plans together, plans that make sense to business, that they can look into that and say, okay, I understand why this is over here. It's not just a technical or something that you are doing technology for the sake of technology. So this is kind of a foundation for me. Uh, Clear communication, it's another point that it's foundation for the success of BRM, and also making sure that you have the appropriate stakeholder engagement. If you don't have support from stakeholders at this point in time, it's really tough to move forward without the proper support. Even if you have a good plan, or even if you have money for that, if you are not with the appropriate buy-in and not doing this kind of stuff, it's difficult to move forward. It's kind of I would say even generic ones, not specific in supply chain, but I see as clear points with that.
Awesome. Like you talked about building the alliances, making sure that you communicate effectively, but also get the stakeholder support, which also means that you have to develop trust. Because if the stakeholders are going to be getting engaged, they need to see the value. They know that you are fully focused on delivering outcomes. You talked a lot about speaking the language of the business, being hands-on. I think all of those are attributes that will just make them more competent towards becoming a business relationship manager and effectively delivering outcomes, right? So I believe that, in my opinion, having interviewed a lot of business relationship managers, done training and coaching and consulting, it boils down to two key factors about impact and value, right? And if you create that as part of the most important pillar, then everybody starts to do their best to achieve that strategic outcomes. Thank you so much, Hugo, for spending time with us on the BRM BrownBag episode. I'm sure that our viewers would have enjoyed your nuggets of wisdom and your real world experience of helping with delivery management and business relationship management. I hope that you can inspire more BRMs in the supply chain industry and see how they can be successful in their career. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks a lot, Suresh. Thanks for having me over here. Really appreciate the time. It was a nice conversation, and hope that it's useful for people that are watching them.
Thank you, everyone.